Hello, my name is Kayla Jones, and my research project is entitled The Impact of COVID-19 on the Peer-to-Peer Lending Market. So timely data from the US Census Household Pulse Survey has shown that minority, low income, low education, and renter households are more likely to report losses in income due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And historically, during periods of weak economic conditions, traditional banks respond by tightening lending standards. So given these two dynamics, I hypothesize that changes in bank lending practices could cause potential unmet demand for credit for traditionally underserved consumers. In a 2018 paper, economists at the Philadelphia Fed have done work that provides evidence that fintech lenders, which is defined as banking institutions that do not have a brick and mortar presence, who operate exclusively online and use alternative methods to make lending decisions, expand credit access in areas typically underserved by banks, in particular areas where the average income per capita is low. Secondly, using comprehensive regulatory data on individual credit card accounts, a board economist has done work in a recent 2020 paper that documents a decrease in credit supply by traditional banks immediately after the onset of the pandemic for less creditworthy borrowers. And thirdly, as noted in the first slide about trends in household finances, there's additional literature that documents that borrowers with less education, less income, and a less creditworthy profile may rely on unsecured credit for consumption smoothing to offset unemployment-induced earning losses. And lastly, in another recent 2020 paper, there is some evidence that the expansion of unemployment insurance programs and economic impact payments have caused poverty levels to fall and income percentiles to increase. So given these trends, there's evidence that the federal aid programs have done more than enough to compensate for losses in income that households experienced during the pandemic. So there may not be a rise in demand of credit, so decreases in supply may have little to no effect. However, I still hypothesize the following two outcomes: that the decrease in credit supply will be greater for consumers with less credit-worthy profiles, i.e. borrowers with lower level of education, lower income, and lower credit scores post-COVID. And secondly, that the contraction in lending will be greater among traditional banks versus fintech lenders. So in order to measure my question of interest, I use a Poisson regression model. I have two models where first of which the dependent variable is a log of the number of direct credit mailing offers from banks received during each quarter per household. And secondly, where the dependent variable is a log of the number of direct credit card mailing offers from fintechs received during each credit per household. So the regressors that I have include demographic variables on the households, including race, ethnicity, education levels, homeownership status, income, and Vantage score. And lastly, in order to measure how credit supply changes during the pandemic, I use the indicated variable post-COVID for observations for all offers sent during 2020 Q2 and 2020 Q3. So my analysis uses the Mentee Corporate Media and TransUnion match file, which contain anonymized data from monthly surveys of credit offers that households receive. So the data contains a wealth of information about the type of credit offers received to consumers, name of the offering lender, characteristics of the consumer, and detailed information about the offers. So with that being said, I'm using the data set as a proxy to measure changes in credit supply across different households over time. So this table displays a brief summary of the two Poisson regression models I ran. As you can see, among certain households, the expected count of credit card mailing offers received is lower for fintech firms versus traditional banks post-pandemic. Due to data privacy issues, I'm unable to share the full results of my regression analysis. However, the contraction in lending tends to be slightly greater among banks. All the differences noted here are statistically significant at the 95th and 90% significance level. So the following slide provides another overview of my results. So firstly, among traditional banks, the expected count of credit card mailing offers received post-pandemic is lower for households with below prime credit, i.e. households who have a Vantage score of less than 640, Hispanic households, and younger households where the head of household is less than 30. So these results differ slightly among fintech banks. So the expected count of credit card mailing offers is lower for Asian and Black households. However, this count is higher for households with below or near prime credit. For households where the head of household is between 30 and 60, so middle-aged households. And lastly, for households where the yearly income is between $25,000 to $75,000 per year. So this pretty much concludes my analysis and my presentation. So thank you all so much for allowing me to present and participate in the second annual Research in Color conference. Thank you.